Welcome to another edition of Market Impact Insights, your podcast source for business leadership perspectives to help your business grow. Hear from experts in marketing, sales, business strategy, and more, with practical advice for business success. Make sure you won't miss the latest episodes by visiting marketimpactnow.com. Now, here's your host, Dan Albaum.
Welcome back to another great episode of Market Impact Insights. Any revenue-generating business, the heartbeat, the lifeblood of that business is going to be about customers and customer relationships. How do you engage? How do you attract? How do you retain and build healthy, lasting customer relationships? It's all wrapped up into this concept of customer experience, and competitive differentiation really could depend on how well you're able to deliver a unique and a compelling customer experience. We're going to talk about that with my guest today, Nate Brown. He loves two things very much: customer experience and community, and they go hand in hand. Nate has been a community builder. He co-founded CX Accelerator back in 2018, and that has grown to over 4,000 members. It's a really vibrant collection of customer experience leaders helping each other maximize their careers, accomplish remarkable things in service to others. He is also currently the head of education and enablement for Sherpa. He has so much experience in helping organizations, being a leader inside of organizations, build contact centers from scratch. He has anchored complex customer experience functions. He's helped to foster exceptional employee customer connections in dozens of organizations. He has so much experience and a great perspective on this. Can't wait to dive into the conversation. Nate, welcome to Market Impact Insights.
What's going on, Dan? What's going on, everybody? Huge Dan fan, big fan of the show. Thank you so much for having me. Thrilled to get into this.
Yeah, so you've had this amazing journey and career. What originally sparked your passion to focus in this whole customer experience area?
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been unexpected for sure. Actually, the last CX Accelerator gathering we had a career coach, and she kind of dissected my career path a little bit, and it has been an unexpected and winding road. But I've absolutely loved the journey, and it did get started, many years ago with customer service, and then ultimately making that leap into customer experience. And the thing I love about that, Dan, it's so left brain and right brain. It's the best puzzle in the business world in terms of bringing these pieces together and really making the mission of the organization come to life in service to customers. So I just absolutely love the work.
Yeah, and it feels like it's this ongoing, evolving puzzle where the configuration of the pieces are changing all the time. Is that a good analogy to use?
Some of the pieces have disappeared. Some of them have become Play-Doh. It's the hardest puzzle in the world as well, as is any business puzzle right now. The idea of like planting your feet on solid ground and anchoring in is just laughable. There's no safe place to hide. So many things are changing all around us. And the people that are being successful today are those that are excellent advocates of positive change and have the ability to create an atmosphere of psychological safety in which others can change alongside them.
Yeah, we're going to get into leadership a little bit later, but you're really setting the tone there, aren't you? And creating this environment where people feel empowered and comfortable to be able to maybe think outside that traditional box and be able to then embrace innovation, embrace change a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so when you look back on it all, you've been down this very interesting road. What's been your biggest learning, and what surprises have you faced along the way?
Love this question, Dan. I was surprised today. Today, surprised. It's okay. I would say it's really important to have a plan. And I was kind of laughing as I look back at my quote unquote career path plan from 15 years ago. And there were parts of that have been instrumental in my ability to do the things that I've gotten to do and to be able to have the relationships that I have today. And that's actually been the biggest part of all the things in my career map from 15 years ago. The part that is by far the most true and helpful is where I attempted to set up a personal board of advisors.
Mm.
My father, Dan Brown, it was Jeff Toyster and Justin Robbins, who I have the sincere honor of getting to work alongside through Metric Sherpa today. And so having that mini board of advisors and having the wisdom to do that so long ago has made so much difference. All the other things that I tried to project and anticipate have become comedically irrelevant at this point. And they've all morphed to other things, better things. But that was one of those anchor points that was so critical. So I would say have that personal board of advisors, have a plan, but be very flexible, because as you learn and as you grow, your mentality, your perspective is going to change. The way that you think about success is going to change. And that's actually one of the things that I discovered too is, as I have gained a small, not a significant following, but the CX space is small, and I am a somewhat of a known entity in that space.
Yeah.
But I have learned even recently just the importance of cultivating real friendships over followers, and how I guess you could say just meaningless, followers are when compared with real friendships and people that are walking alongside you, doing life with you, speaking truth to you, helping you along the way. Those are the people that matter.
Yeah. I mean, you said something that really struck me, which was, it's really distinguishing between casual acquaintances and then the people that really have your back, and that there's an investment that they're making in that relationship to the point that they are really going to be honest. They're not going to tell you just what you want to hear. And I'm sure part of that personal advisory board is there are probably moments when you were hearing some constructive feedback. Maybe it wasn't the most delightful
Mhm.
thing that you wanted to hear, but it was really good for you. Was that been the case throughout time?
Completely accurate. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's a tough love attribute to that, and I know we're going to get into a leadership section later. But I love that idea of radical candor that Kim Scott really made prevalent, earning the right to speak to somebody, to challenge them directly because they know that you care about them deeply. I mean, you've earned the right with them. You've made it very, very clear that you can trust me. I want what's best for you, and that is why in this conversation we're fighting for the same thing. Your growth, your advancement, your joy, and those are things worth fighting for together.
Yeah, and something that all of your peer group is keenly interested in is delivering compelling customer experiences. What are
Mm.
you seeing out there, Nate, as still some of the biggest challenges to being able to do that?
Wow. Yeah. The customer experience field is so tumultuous right now. And I know it's somewhat tangential to the marketing field, but so connected. As you think about, my favorite way of thinking about CX is just making people's lives better and easier. But in a more scientific way, I do love the Forrester definition of these culminating touch points, the way that our customers perceive Big B brand across their entire customer journey and creating an experience that ultimately culminates in loyalty, a decision where I want to be loyal to this brand and I want to bring others in with me. That's what we're trying to achieve in this work. It has never been harder to ultimately do that. And one of the big reasons that's out there, one of the biggest challenges is that the scope of the work is broken. If
Mhm.
you think about how large that concept of CX is, and then you've got somebody who's assigned as a CX leader in an organization and is often given some level of ownership over like a voice of customer process, or maybe a small part of a customer service or operations team. It's not enough. The scope of the work is not big enough to ultimately impact the big B brand relationship. And so, Justin Robbins has said so well in many of his articles and different things. CX is not a function. We love to rename the customer service team into customer experience or something like that, or some group of people. We call them customer experience. No, no, no. It's an outcome. It's something that the organization has to achieve together. And in order for great experiences to happen consistently, there must be an exceptional investment and intentionality by a group of leaders that represent that larger customer journey. And so I love talking
Yeah.
about a CX change coalition. And that's a bit of a stolen John Coder term from his leading change model, which is so brilliant. But it's that idea of stakeholders that represent a part of the journey. They're coming together, they're aligning on what an excellent experience looks like, consistent with your brand promise in relationship to your customers. And you all are fighting together to manifest that, to make that promise a reality. And you're doing that together in that in harmony with one another in that CX change coalition.
Yeah. And really what's required is you're building that picture is collaboration. There's trust across functions. So it's back to
Mhm.
that whole cross-functional relationships and building alignment in an organization that puts a priority around customer experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well stated indeed.
Yeah. And, once you get that common set of priorities and focus, then it's amazing, what can happen, but, easier said than done. And of course, culture can really play a role here. Executive leadership and kind of what are they embodying and what are their behaviors reinforcing? How do you see those two pieces playing a role in ultimately that customer experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love the Annette Franz quote that CX change is culture change. I mean, if you think about ultimately the way that your customers are treated, it's going to spring forth or not from the reality of your culture. Denise Leon, one of my favorite CX authors, she talks about how the organization gives a gift to its employees every day. And that gift is the only thing that they have the ability to give forward to the customer. So if you're trying to create this experience outside the company that you aren't giving to your own people, the lack of integrity of that is going to really burn people out. It's impossible for them to ultimately continue to create and pass on something that they themselves don't have. So creating that circle of psychological safety, creating a great experience for them, modeling out the fulfillment of the mission for your own people, I think is one of the biggest things. I mean, obviously the business is there to make money, but that's that's something that has to be achieved because of value being generated to communities and to customers. There's something that the business said, promised to the world, we're going to do this thing better than anybody else. And that's how we're ultimately going to generate revenue. But that thing, that unique brand promise that you're making, if you have executive leaders who care about that and they're making that come to life for their own people, there's really special things that are going to happen. And then modeling out servant leadership behaviors. And I think most people know what I mean when I say that, but it's that idea of lifting others up, helping to ultimately lift other voices up, innovate from the front line. Just really serving others through your leadership resource and capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's something about dedicating yourself and being proactive in terms of engaging with customers and more deeply understanding their needs that that that's healthy for an organization, right? And it can be kind of a unifying type of thing when there's clarity around truly understanding those needs. Where I've seen the most disconnects is when there hasn't been a commitment to really having the listening posts, to having
Mm.
that consistent set of the customer inputs. And then everyone can kind of form their own agendas or view as to what's important. But it's a unifying thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love that you brought up that idea of listening posts. And this is an area where marketing and CX really have an opportunity to play together. If you want to see the real culture of CX inside an organization, look at the way it uses its voice of customer data. If it's only using that as a whip to find friction and to see, oh, you're doing your job wrong or this is broken. If all you're doing with that is to see how things are broken, which is great. But what we really should be doing with that voice of customer data is motivating our employees intrinsically, showing them the tremendous impact that they're having through the work that they are doing in fulfillment to the mission and the impact that they're making in the lives of customers. So the maturity, the way that we view that voice of customer data, our ability to close the loop on that in meaningful ways with customers, to create real relationships, the ways that we intrinsically motivate our employees using that voice of customer information, that's going to say a lot about your CX culture.
Yeah. So Nate, something that I've observed, I'd love to get your take on this because you've worked with so many different organizations, is sometimes when you get that voice of customer feedback in, it can challenge directly some internal narratives that may
Mm,
be developed. Maybe it's a product that's in development. Everyone's, high-fiving internally because they're feeling good. Hey, we know how this is going to positively impact. And then you get some feedback that maybe challenges that maybe some of those assumptions weren't maybe spot on. And it can be very disconcerting. Have you seen that effect? And like, how do you navigate through that aspect of having that continuous feedback come in?
wow, really, really astute point there, Dan. I have seen this in my career a couple times, and I'm going to this is just from my experience, but I'm going to pick on product marketing because that is where I have seen this, where they own a small pocket of voice of customer data, and in certain cases they have manipulated that to fulfill a narrative that they're trying to project around the features that they've selected in the way that they've developed a certain product. That is a supreme bastardization of what voice of customer can and should be. And when I think of what it should be, it is inconvenient. It is just the truth. It is what the customer thinks and feels about you, period. I had a business leader when I was working inside of UL named Gita, and she would always say, it's the fish on the dish. Put the fish on the dish. And that's what voice of customer is. Just put the fish on the dish, and then you all together, your CX Change Coalition, have to wrestle with that tension of the reality of how the customer feels about you and the decisions that you're making. It's good.
Yeah. And it's 2025. We can't have this conversation without talking about AI. And
Mhm.
where do you see AI coming in? What are the most important aspects of AI? How do you see it changing really the face of customer experience and customer relationships?
Yeah, it's such a huge conversation. For the sake of brevity, let's narrow it into the customer service conversation, which the tremendous and exciting things happening there with the enablement of AI and agentic AI and some true collaboration and customer interactions between these AI engines and really capable human service talent. And so I've been thinking about this, Dan. Let's make the quick parts quick and the slow parts meaningful. And
Yeah.
that's in relation to customer service interaction. So the quick part's quick. Let's make it so fast to find data, understand the context, know what I ordered 3 weeks ago, know what's going on with this customer from their entire relationship over the course of 5 years, anticipate what's going to happen next week with that OSHA report or whatever that looks like. All these things that should be really fast, the documenting of tickets, all of those things. Let's make those quick parts quick. And the AI helps us to do that so effectively where we can be so much better in terms of our capability and our access to really good insights as we conduct service interactions. But then let's make the slow parts meaningful. Let's make a real connection. Let's remind
Yeah.
that this person, this customer, why they selected to do business with us, and develop a sense of community inside of that relationship with them where we together care about X thing, the brand promise of the organization. We're trying to make the world a safer place. We're trying to make people healthier. Whatever this thing is that you all are trying to co-create around, make that happen. And also, Dan, with AI capabilities in the service space, the line between sales and service is coming down big time. I'll use an example from Crate and Barrel when I was at the Gladly user conference. Listening to them, and I'm filling in some gaps here, in terms of my own interpretation of events. but I'm going to give you the scenario of a broken vase. So somebody is going to call, or well, actually, they're not going to call. Well, they could, but they're going to go to crateandbarrel.com. They have a broken vase that was shipped to them. So the digital concierge is going to know. Oh yeah, I see you made that order 2 days ago. I'm so sorry that vase was broken. Is this still the right address? Great, that is on its way. The broken vase is taken care of. But is that the end of the service interaction? No, because it's not about the broken vase, Dan. It's about what Crate and Barrel cares about, which is making beautiful living spaces for moments that matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they care about, and that's what their customers care about. So we got the broken vase out of the way. Now the digital concierge is like, hey, let me connect you with Kyle, and he's just going to talk to you and see if there's any way we could help you in terms of making your living space beautiful. Kyle jumps on there. Hey, was that vase going to be on a bookshelf? Tell me about that. And how do you love your living room right now? How can I help you? And Kyle's like excited to do that. And if there's another service issue that comes up in that conversation, Kyle's enabled to handle that. Is it customer service? Is it sales? It doesn't matter. it's a digital concierge working with a brand representative who has the ability together to fulfill the mission in a way that we never could before. So that's what AI is doing to our space.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting example there because what you're talking about is this graceful handoff and this balance between leveraging the scale and the benefits of AI with still the human factor. And
Yeah.
there's been some publicized, missteps where companies I think went gung ho all in on AI. They lost sight of the need to balance that with the human factor and then retrenched, right? I think they
Yes.
pulled it back because they realized, oh, wait a minute, we've kind of gone a little bit too far. So do you see it as kind of maintaining the right balance?
Exactly. Balance is the word. At that same show, Nordstrom had the courage to say, "Hey, we had to roll back some of our technology implementation because we would not compromise our generations old customer relationship." Like we served this family's great grandmother, and we're not going to compromise that relationship based on this technology implementation. We're going to make sure that we do this right in a way that's going to edify this customer and help them to achieve the objective that we both have together. So I love the boldness of that. People that are being thoughtful, finding ways to truly elevate the experience through this technology, doing it in a way that it also promotes community and human connection. Those brands are out there and they're doing it.
And are you also seeing kind of this continued evolution in kind of the framing and the thinking of, say, customer service as really giving the agent even greater leeway
Oh
and
yeah.
empowerment to create that ultimate experience? So they're not just there to be reactive, they're there to proactively suggest. And in a sense, they are selling, they're upselling or they're cross-selling. But they've got more of that mindset that, hey, we can be part of something bigger than just this specific function of customer
Yeah.
service.
You're so right, Dan. I mean, it's not about the broken vase. It's not about fulfilling a ticket or solving some minuscule transactional problem. That we're so far past that now. Most brands, not all. Some
Yeah.
brands still need to be there. But for those who have locked in on this and have been working on this for a while and have now layered on really capable technology with good leadership mentality and good process, those brands now have that capability to awaken something special, which is what you're talking about, which is, yeah, I mean, we just have brand ambassadors. We just have these concierges that can do all kinds of amazing things. And the way that I like to think about it is it's just a guide. They're guiding the customer to their definition of success. And that's using language from Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, who you might remember, Dan, pretty big time marketing resource
Yeah.
there. Um, but that's what it's about. Let's anticipate what the customer's definition of success looks like. We can only do that with a really good voice of customer capability and these AI enabled tools around us to see that type of proactive data come to life. So that's one. And then have a person who comes alongside that customer for a section of this journey and makes it better for them, more fun, easier, more has unique knowledge that makes it better and removes friction, whatever that looks like in terms of your relationship to your customers and the journey that you get to follow them alongside, that's what a good guide is going to do. Use this amazing data we now have access to make the journey better.
And to actually reinforce or to drive acceleration of specific decisions
Mm,
that need to be made, as
yeah.
opposed to kind of in status quo state or fear to make a move. Create greater confidence too, right? In terms of being able to actually continue to innovate and evolve.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm stealing my own thunder here, but it's that servant challenger mentality that really makes that to happen. I think you were about to ask what truly separates an exceptional leader from a leader who's
Yes,
just good enough. and, and,
that's
and
right.
in my mind, it's this idea of what I've been calling a servant challenger. So in order to do what you just said, Dan, I mean, you gotta be able to challenge. You got to be able to break status quo and wake the customer up from a bad assumption and rattle their cage a little bit. Now, are you doing that in a kind, edifying, helpful way? Yeah, but you are challenging them, but you're also serving them. And so that idea of having these servant challengers with the ability, the confidence, the knowledge to break the status quo and debunk bad information and push people towards a new objective, a higher objective. Those are unbelievable people. But then some of those folks, they're challenging for the sake of challenging. They're challenging for their own legacy, their own promotion. That what we're looking for are those who still have that heart to serve and to
Yeah.
lift others up, bring others up, help the brand to accomplish its real promise and objective. So when you layer on that servant challenger concept, it becomes really special.
I love that because that's so aligned with the foundation behind this podcast and my book, The Impact Makers, which is around the servant leadership mindset, which exactly as you're talking about, setting aside personal ego and it's putting the needs of team customers first. It's empowering teams versus commanding and controlling.
Love it.
And it's really lifting and elevating performance and then ultimately experiences because it's that employee experience that's so intrinsically linked ultimately with what you can deliver to the customer.
You and I, Dan, are still very much on the same page.
Absolutely. So I know you give lots of advice, but I'm going to flip things around, Nate, and ask you what is the best piece of business advice you have ever received?
Yeah, it came from Marshall Martin, a mentor of mine early on. Sadly, he has passed on, but he told me at a very critical time in my career. He said, "Nate, you got to have the laser focus of an Olympic athlete." Because I was just young and I wanted to be able to do everything, and I wanted to know everything. I wanted to be able to answer any question and just be in every conversation. I was a very curious kid.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely had a lot of FOMO, and just almost a little too hungry in a way to actually be helpful. I was too hungry to be helpful, and so he really saw into the goodness that I had and the desire that I had to serve and to become an effective leader. And he set me on a path where I could really focus in on becoming extremely good at customer experience and kind of locking in on that and limiting my focus to where I could master a particular piece on the piano that could move people instead of just being able to jack around and play cover songs all day. It's kind of how I've interpreted that advice. Have that laser focus of an Olympic athlete in a particular discipline.
Yeah, and maybe I'm going to get the number wrong here, but I remember seeing in the last couple of years there was some research that said to become truly world class and exceptional in anything, it's something like 10,000 hours of practice, some insanely high amount of just practice and repetition
Yeah,
to
I
be able
think
to build that. And so it's all about the commitment. If you want to be truly in that category, from an athletic standpoint or maybe music talent, but it's all investing in yourself at the end of the day.
I got those 10,000 hours in with pickleball in the first month.
You're there.
I'm
You're
very
there.
pleasant. It's an
Yeah.
addicting little sport, Dad.
Oh boy. Yeah. I have many friends that have been sucked into that world, and they love it. It's been great. And as you look ahead and you think about the future, what makes you optimistic?
Yeah, I mean, community. It's the idea of community. I feel like we've been poor community makers inside of organizations, and I feel like there's a pendulum flip that is happening with this AI takeover that's going on. Like I don't know if you do, Dan. Like when I start seeing AI generated content, I am immediately scrolling past it. The things that are causing me to pause are real people articulating meaningful things from themselves, and
Yeah.
that's what's causing me to pause. And I think that's tugging at my heart, where I want to see people brought together in community. We're still in this, as our U.S. Surgeon General has called it, this epidemic of loneliness that's going on, and this AI addiction is certainly not helping. Um, with exception of a few, like AI can in some ways bring people together and accelerate that cycle in some really cool ways. So I'm not saying AI is the problem. I'm not at all. But I am saying that it's yet another distraction in a long string of distractions that have caused business leaders and just people in general to forego tapping into their ability to foster community and participate inside of meaningful community. So I think that's what we're going to see. Businesses really focusing on developing meaningful pockets of communities alongside their customers, alongside their
Hmm.
employees. I think those are the brands that everybody's going to want to work for and to buy from.
Yeah. And, it's not easy to do that, but it starts with a
Oh,
commitment to want to build a community. Are there a couple things that you see as the big blockers to why people might be reluctant to want to just go for it in terms of the community building? Like what's stopping them from
yeah, I
just
mean, it's
being
really
more
hard.
effective there?
You know Mark Schaefer? He wrote Marketing Rebellion.
I don't, but I'd love to learn more.
You should, yeah, definitely check out Mark Schaefer. I would consider him to be a little bit of a prophet in our space. Just what everything he predicted with Marketing Rebellion was amazing. But he's recently come out with this thing called belonging to the brand, and it's his love letter to marketing community. And he talks very realistically though about why it's so hard for organizations to do community well. It requires a significant investment of time and energy and framework in order to bring people together and keep that regular engagement and do community hygiene and create a positive culture in there, and foster meaningful engagement on a regular basis inside of that community vehicle. But when you do, the loyalty, the voice of customer that comes from that, just the engine that you have to be able to run things by your community and gain insights on new products and features and things like that. It's just amazing what all can happen when you mobilize your customers into a meaningful community function. Now, not every business can do that. It doesn't make sense for every organization based on their relationship to their customers, but quite a few. I look at Rust-Oleum. Rust-Oleum, the spray
Yes.
can paints. Unbelievable community forum that they have, where people are creating these unbelievable designs and projects. Using they happen to be using Rust-Oleum, but what they're doing is creating these beautiful expressions of art and encouraging one another in that, teaching one another in that, and it's become their absolute superpower. So if spray paint can set a high bar for community development, then I think you can as well.
Yeah, I love that. And it's the aspect of where you have those vibrant, interactive communities where you get, customer to customer, they're sharing ideas. Hey, I ran into this, here's how I handled it, maybe in terms of use of product, whatever. And then now we're talking about brand building that's more organically being fueled, customer to customer instead of just the money that you're pouring into traditional advertising.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, no, it's huge. So, as we wrap up the conversation, Nate, do you have any other final advice for leaders in developing an amazing customer experience or elevating the performance of their teams?
Yeah, there's a term that stuck with me at a recent Support World Live conference. Be an architect of hope. let that phrase sink in. Be an architect of hope. Dan, we're entering in and have been in a time where there's no safe place to hide. People are hurting. Businesses are struggling in a number of different levels. Um, if you can be an architect of hope and help connect people to really positive things that are going on, help them to become the type of person that they want to become through your relationship as a leader to them. If you can unlock hope inside of people and inside of your customers, you're going to be something special. You're going to be a force to be reckoned with, and you're going to find people are just looking for you. They're looking for anchors of hope out there in this ever changing, tumultuous sea that's going on out there. They're trying to find points of light. So when you can be one of those architects of hope and help invite others onto that pedestal with you, really really good things happen. I think about there's a religious text that talks about how trials and tribulations produce proven character, and proven character is what brings hope. So if you're wondering how to
Yes.
be an architect of hope, it's proven character that gets you there. And it's times like these, Dan, these hard times where proven character is earned. I think about the leaders that I saw during COVID when things really hit the fan, and you saw people step up and become leaders
Yes.
that it was just remarkable to see some people step up in new ways. And what they did there was they revealed their proven character, and they became architects of hope. We have more opportunities to do that right now.
Well, I have really appreciated the passion and the perspective that you've brought in terms of so many companies, Nate, where you've made an impact, and ultimately reminding all of us that customer experience is a key strategic pillar for the long-term success of any organization, and the optimism that we can be architects of hope. Thanks again for joining. I've loved the conversation.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody.
And a reminder, please continue to give the gift of feedback. That helps make this podcast even better. You can go out and do that so easily at all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast and Spotify. And as always, make sure to visit marketimpactnow.com for the latest in business leadership perspectives. So long until next time.